Okay, we'll start over.
Okay.
My name is Spencer, and I'm an associate dean of admission, and I have been traveling on Long Island and reading applications for your school and all the others for almost 20 years now.
Oh, great.
And I'm Kate Connolly. I'm a senior here at Wesleyan. I was born in Southampton and raised in Seven Bridges, so very familiar with the area and also playing against Southampton all throughout high school.
That's great. That's great, sort of.
Yeah.
So, if you could start just by telling us, what do you guys know already? You're all juniors, I know that. Do you know you're interested in liberal arts colleges, or is this sort of the beginning of a fact-finding mission where you're trying to decide if Penn State and or Wesleyan should be on your list? Where are you guys kind of in that process? Yeah, you three.
Right now I'm just looking at
Well, we really can't hear you at all.
Yeah, so you're going to have to come up here.
Oh.
Come on up here. This is good. This is admissions process, right?
I'm not sure what interests me yet, but I just wanted to check out some colleges and hear from
Okay.
you guys.
That's okay.
Well, we'll just talk at you a little bit. Sorry, you go back. We'll talk at you a little bit to kind of get things going. But clearly, we don't know what you don't know, and we can't answer questions you don't ask. And I think having Kate here as somebody who comes from where you guys are at right now, who's had a 4-year experience at Wesleyan, it's a great resource and a great opportunity to kind of learn a little bit more from a current student. So, Wesleyan is a small college of the liberal arts and sciences. We offer traditional academic disciplines and interdisciplinary work. And by that I mean more accurately what we don't offer are majors in areas that we would see as vocational or sort of pre-professional. So we don't have majors in journalism or criminal education, criminal justice, or education, or nursing, right? But we offer traditional academic disciplines across natural science and mathematics, arts and humanities, social and behavioral sciences, and then, as I said, a tremendous amount of interdisciplinary work on our campus. So there are 47 different majors or programs for you to choose from at Wesleyan, ranging from things like English, math, and history, to neuroscience and behavior, science and society, the College of Film and Moving Image, and a full range of academic disciplines like that. We have about 2,900 students on our campus, undergraduate students. We do offer PhDs and master's degrees in a limited number of areas, and so I have about 200 graduate students as well. What those graduate students never do at Wesleyan is teach a class. And that's a very important distinction between the kind of small college experience that Wesleyan offers and some of the really large research-oriented universities ranging from Stony Brook to MIT to Stanford, right? These places where focus for faculty is as much on research and scholarship as it is on teaching. And at Wesleyan, we balance those two things for our faculty, giving the opportunity to be both great teachers and be in the classroom every day and engage with very bright, talented undergraduates, but at the same time, have the opportunity and the time available to them to be leaders in their field and push the envelope in the areas that they are working in. So that's a really important element of Wesleyan as well. Middletown is a small city of about 50,000 people, so bigger maybe than where you are now on some levels, but geographically very spread out. A really thriving and fun main street that's within walking distance of campus, but again, a campus community that is much more focused on what's taking place on our campus and the programming events that are happening here. So Wesleyan is by no means a suitcase school. There's nobody going home on weekends to New York or Boston simply because they're close enough, but rather students are here on campus engaged in a very active community, promoting the things that they're interested in, taking advantage of what their peers are doing, plays, dance performances, athletic events, film screenings, etc. And again, very, very active and vibrant campus community here. So that's very, sort of thumbnail sketch of some of the things that Wesleyan has to offer. I don't know if you want to add anything.
I think I covered it all the bases.
Okay. I can't hear you, but I can read that. So what are some of the things you guys are curious about? Again, there's so many different things we can talk about without ever touching on the things that you're most curious about. And you may have to rephrase the question, person getting closer to the mic.
Okay.
Can I ask Katie questions?
Sure.
Should I come up?
You can come up or tell me and I'll ask it.
Like how has being that you just finished, like how did she, like the transition from Long Island to there and kind of like work-wise, like how did she kind of adjust and finishing up now, like how was it like throughout the 4 years?
Okay, so William Taylor Reddick would like to know, has a question for you, Kate, about adjusting from being from the East End of Long Island and going to Wesleyan and what that transition was like and the workload and adjusting to the workload at college, as well as now reflecting on your senior year, what has that been like for you?
Yeah, so coming from the East End, for me, it was kind of an easy transition just because the feel of Wesleyan campus and then Middletown itself is very similar to kind of that small town feel that you get from Southampton, Ridges, Sag Harbor. So in terms of physical comfort, completely comfortable right off the bat. I also came in as a member of the women's soccer team my freshman year. So I initially had 20 girls that were my friends, whether we got along on the field or off the field, didn't matter. They were my friends. They were there for me regardless. But also, as a freshman, you don't have traditional orientation that you come here over the summer and then go back home for the end of your summer. You actually get here, I think it's 3 days early or maybe a full week early. And it's just you're on campus. There are athletes on campus, but other than that, it's strictly freshmen, and all the orientation events happen during that time. So you're already, you're on the campus, you're settling into your dorms. You met folks that live on your hall. So I think that's really unique because that gives you kind of a little bit of time to experience the campus, just with everyone else that's also their first time getting their feet wet here at Wesleyan. So I think that was really made it a lot easier for me to transition, was just that we had that time here with just freshmen and not having to worry about, navigating the other social scene here at Wesleyan. In terms of academics, I came on pretty much certain that I wanted to major in neuroscience and psychology. I will say that I ended up dropping the psych and taking on the SIS major, which is the Science and Society program that Chris had mentioned, just because I wanted to take advantage of the liberal arts education. So I took a lot of science classes my freshman year. In terms of workload, traditional science course workload that you would see in any of your AP classes or IB, I don't know if you guys are AP or IB school. Similar to that, however, a lot of the classes here do require a lot more reading than I was used to in a lot of my classes. I went to Ridges High School, so again, public high school. So you're expected to do a lot of reading, which is something that I had to get used to, and to know, be able to then produce, something for discussion in class. Also, a lot of the courses, once you get into, sophomore, junior, senior year, are a little bit more discussion-based. It's more of that, you're kind of sitting around, and if no one has anything to say, sometimes the professor will sit there and wait until someone's going to generate discussion when we get to some of the seminar and upper level courses. So the first year is always a bit of an adjustment, regardless of where you are. But for me, I really appreciate the fact that a lot of the courses here do generate more of a discussion, and it's kind of a discourse between faculty and students, as opposed to just a teacher getting up there and talking at you, which was kind of my experience throughout high school. So I really do I like the fact that you kind of that you can have a discussion in class. So yeah.
Thank you.
I think a lot of one of the adjustments students make is the difference in sort of how they manage their time, right? Because you're in class now, you're in school 30 hours a week or something like that, right? And in college, you're in class 12 to 16 hours a week, which sounds great, but then there's all this other work and time management that goes into that, and figuring out when you're going to do all that reading and go to the meeting for the organization that you just joined and get to your athletic practice and to your friend's dance performance that Thursday night, because if you don't go, he or she will kill you, and it's, that kind of. And so, learning all of those time management things, I think, is an important part of the freshman year experience.
Yeah, I definitely would say so. Because also in that sense, like Chris said, you do have all these events, and there are so many different organizations here on campus that sometimes you do have to pick and choose between, okay, well, I know I didn't study for this orgo exam yet, so I'm not going to be able to go
that is some of the feedback that we hear from our alumni when they come back, that that's one of the biggest challenges, is the time management piece. Any other?
When she was there, separate from like academics now, but did she ever feel like there were times when she just wanted to come back, or was there always something new?
Did you ever feel, while you've been at Wesleyan, aside from academics, did you ever feel like you wanted to come back home, or were there always things for you to do?
There's always things for me to do. I'm also the type of person that wherever I am, I like to kind of explore a bit. So if you ever do feel like, you know, okay, I want to do something off campus, there's plenty of events on Main Street. I had the opportunity to spend the summer here and take 2 courses, which were wonderful. But even during the week, you know, Middletown had, every week there was a car show and then food trucks, things like that. And in terms of needing, you know, wanting to come home, there's plenty of things to keep you occupied. There's always, there's film screenings every week. There's also a lot of student-run plays that are happening, big games. That being said, if there is a time when you do need to come home, it's a short ferry ride away, or it's, you know, short drive around through New York. But there's plenty to keep you busy, just in terms of even midweek and then events on the weekend. Sometimes they'll run little trips to, there was one to Six Flags recently. There's another one, sometimes like the fun little like fall activities. You go to Lyman Orchard, which is an apple orchard that's in the neighborhood. And this time of year they'll start doing their strawberry festival. So there's a lot of also university, you know, run events that will take you off campus if you are kind of getting the itch to say, okay, I'm sick of being on campus. I need to just get off campus. And that being said, you know, Main Street is a walk away, and there's plenty of fun restaurants down there. There's the Green Street Brewery, which is another place that's Wesleyan run. I think it's like arts, and also there's the Ferry Street Gardens too. That's also affiliated with Wesleyan. So there's plenty to do, you know, on campus and in the surrounding Middletown area. So.
And most kids are here on weekends, and if you want to go do something, the odds are you can talk somebody into it by the car.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's really not that hard to find. It's really easy to find students with a car. Usually they're in my parking spot. That's really
I walk here today.
I walk to work every day. I just joke about the parking thing. But you know, there are a lot of kids have cars, and the students who are interested in getting off campus are probably doing it no more than twice a semester, and they're going into Manhattan or into Boston or something like that. As a New Yorker, I like to say you can get to a major metropolitan area, or you can go to Boston. But that's just me.
Is there a foreign exchange program?
Do you have any study abroad opportunities?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any study abroad opportunities?
Oh, yes. We have millions of them. I'm sorry, we've got a guy mowing the lawn.
Of course.
Other than a power failure, pretty much everything else is going to happen. But, yeah, the study abroad is a huge part of what students want to do at Wesleyan. And over half of our student body will study abroad. It's getting up close to about 60%. Most of that is in the junior year, although students go as early as the second semester of their sophomore year, and also in the senior year. That's obviously contingent on having all of your major credit worked out and all those sorts of things. But it is a big part of what students at Wesleyan are interested in. This is a very globally aware, socially aware student body, and they see cross-cultural knowledge and education as a really important part of what they're going to need to be successful in the world later on. And so they do travel abroad at significant rates. There are about 125 or 130 programs that our students have gone on in the last 10 years to over 100 different countries. And so there's an Office of International Studies that supports this. This is all that they do. 2 full-time professionals work with students on study abroad. And again, it's very well supported in a number of ways. If you go on any of these pre-approved programs, which means only the Wesleyan students gone on it before and had a quality experience, you know that you'll get academic credit for all the work that you do before you come back. Also at Wesleyan, financial aid goes with you. So if financial aid is part of your picture, it will cost you no more to go to any study abroad program anywhere in the world than it would to be at Wesleyan for that semester. And the rest of the cost of that, you would make your family contribution to the institution as you normally would, and the rest of the cost of that experience comes out of the financial aid budget. And so, again, a very well supported thing. I think the choices our students make in terms of study abroad are very indicative of something that I think is true about Wesleyan students, and that is that they're very comfortable being uncomfortable, right? They're very comfortable being uncomfortable. would say, oh, let's not go to Paris in the spring, right? I mean, after the winter we had, who's on board? But, that said, in Paris, and we run a great program in Paris along with Vassar, right? So it's a really high quality program. Vassar, that's on your list too, I know. It's okay, I can name all the other schools on your list also. But in Paris, if you get lost, you're going to find somebody who speaks English, right? And so traditional Western values hold sway, and that's very different than going to Bangladesh, right? Or Belize, or Beijing, or someplace that doesn't start with B. But anyway, you get the idea that there are cultural challenges and language barriers that are part of the study abroad experience that our students are really seeking out. And I think that also speaks to the expertise of the international studies folks, that of the group that studies abroad, over half go somewhere other than Western Europe, right? So they're going to places that are very far flung and have all kinds of different programs. Also, again, this is not your father's Oldsmobile. And now we have to explain to the students what an Oldsmobile is. A car like an Oldsmobile.
I know what it is.
Commercial. Anyway, when I was in college studying abroad and going to the university in Dublin or the university in Madrid, and now there are so many options, so many different ways to go about studying abroad. Scuba diving on the Great Barrier Reef is a study abroad program, right? Yes, you've got to get some data and bring it back and analyze it and all that other stuff, but it's scuba diving on the Great Barrier Reef, right? So there are all these, and there's stuff that's not as much fun too, I'm sure. But there are all these different sorts of programs that you can engage in and take advantage of, and very well supported here. It's something that everybody encourages you to do.
I have a question. Are some study abroad programs based on the major you're in, or can anybody be open to, say, going to scuba dive on the Great Barrier Reef, or are they
So the question is about the study abroad programs. Are they discipline specific? Like, do you have to do it in accordance with your major, or could you go study the Great Barrier Reef if that's not having anything to do with your major?
Yes. So was the answer. A lot of those questions I can just answer yes. Yes, all of the above. You can find programs that are very specific to your major, where you're getting credit towards your major, and you're going on that program for that very specific reason. So, for example, some of our film studies majors will go to New Zealand for study abroad, where they can take a really significant number of production-based courses, and they get credit for that in our film department. But you can also go and study abroad in a country and in a program that has absolutely nothing to do with your major. Of course, that's contingent on having those things under control, having your major credit under control, and having your courses mapped out, so that when you come back, you can complete what you need to do to fulfill the major. But your study abroad experience can be a completely separate set of interests or experience from the major itself.
And also, that's pretty common here, that a lot of times, there are certain kids that, yes, if they're a physics major, they know that they want to go to the University of Dublin and take courses there because they have a great physics program. That being said, though, since it is a liberal arts university, you do have the freedom to kind of go outside of your major and then explore other avenues. And your study abroad experience can be that entirely. That it has absolutely nothing to do with your current academic endeavors here, but it's just a program that you are interested in, the culture that you are interested in. So that's the nice freedom that you do have coming to a place like Wesleyan.
Do you track demonstrated interest?
Can I not
really. I like to know when I've met somebody, because it helps me remember them, and maybe give me a little bit more insight if I've had a conversation with you when I'm at your school or at a college fair or when you were here on campus or whatever. But no, we think that your application is a demonstration of interest, and we are selective enough that, and of a high enough, we offer a pretty good education at Wesleyan, and we think that's reason enough for you to be interested in us and explore Wesleyan. And so we don't really spend a lot of time or energy tracking that at all.
Okay. Nathan?
Well, I was just going to say the most successful students through the admissions process with Wesleyan, what are some of the, some of the areas where students can really distinguish themselves outside of the traditional transcript and.
Okay, so through the admissions process, Nathan Jane, the school counselor, is asking, what are some of the ways that students can distinguish themselves outside of the very traditional transcript and application process?
I think that's a great question, and if there was, Nathan, component to your application. And very quickly at Wesleyan, our focus is on your program, the courses that you've taken, the degree to which you've challenged yourself within the context of what Southampton offers you, and then your performance in that hopefully very challenging curriculum. We're a completely test-optional school, so we don't require any standardized testing whatsoever. So we leave it in your hands to decide for yourself what you think best represents your academic achievement and potential moving forward. And if you think that includes your standardized testing, send it to us. If you think it includes only your SAT2s, just send us that. Whatever it is that you think is really most indicative of your accomplishment and potential as a student. In that pool of about 10,000 kids applying to Wesleyan, certainly 7,000 or 8,000 can do the work. And that's where it starts to get interesting for us. And so what we're looking for is students who are clearly passionate about the things that they're engaged with, students who have found satisfaction in devoting some time and energy to 1, 2, 3 particular things that are really important to them. And those encompass all kinds of different possible activities. That can be a free sport athlete, who is really interested in playing college sports. That can also be a free sport athlete who has no interest in playing college sports, right? But that level of dedication and commitment and the time that that takes will translate to whatever it is you choose to do when you come to Wesleyan. So another example might be somebody who's been involved in student government for 4 years, but is kind of done with that, doesn't want to be there anymore. Again, that commitment to community will translate to Wesleyan in the different ways that you find to involve yourself. We're looking for great artists, we're looking for great athletes, we're looking for great intellectuals, we're looking for kids who push the envelope and think outside of the box. Students who can demonstrate to us through the rather blunt instrument that is the common application, it's some sort of intellectual curiosity and fire. There are a lot of students, as you know, who can achieve very highly by doing the work and doing what's expected of them. And those are strong academic records, and we value that. But there are also students who, by virtue of what we learn in teacher recommendations, essays, an admission interview, who are highly accomplished students, but have arrived at that point through perhaps, again, more intellectual curiosity, more engagement with the topic, than sort of being really good at getting grades. And those emerge in different ways through the application, and certainly the essay is an important part of that. What your teachers are telling us about you is a really important part of that as well. And so, when they say John comes to class, John turns in his work on time, he seems like a nice kid, that's one thing, right? But every time I call on John in class, I can count on him asking a question or making a point that gets discussion going, that gets people interested in the topic of the day. So there are ways that the teachers really illuminate for us the kind of intellectual approach you have to academics. And then certainly your counselors and their role in telling us about you as a community member and as a citizen of the school and the larger community, the contributions you've made, the ways what you have done have been important not only to you but to the school, and maybe to another community as well, through your church or through community service or other aspects as well. All of that kind of comes together in what is a very competitive process and challenging process for us, and we seem to make pretty good choices. Seems to work out. We definitely make some mistakes every year, there's no doubt about that, but I think those are the sorts of things that we're really looking for in our applicants at Wesleyan.
Do you have any other questions? You gotta go? Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye. See you in the fall.
Do you guys have any other questions?
All my questions were answered.
Nathan, you have any other questions? All right, I think they've been questioned out. One of the reasons we scheduled it during this time frame is so that more students have access. So we have a late bus that leaves right around this time, and this is our extra help period. So we also decided to tape them so that students can access them if they need to go to extra help or have other commitments. This way they can still get the information without having to necessarily be here. But we love the fact that students can ask questions in real time and get their own answers.
Yeah, I mean, especially because we can't get to every school in the fall by any stretch either. So, this is the sort of thing that we're willing to do Certainly currently my intent to spend some time out there next fall and hope to get to Southampton again. But if that doesn't work and there's interest in doing this again, we can certainly set it up one more time in the fall if we need to.
Great. Okay.
Would you like Kate to wrap up her 4-year career in 2 minutes or less?
That would be awesome.
Okay, I'd like that too.
Are you going to tape it too?
I actually graduated from Center Riches in 2009, came here, as a 2-sport athlete, like soccer and softball.
Not basketball though, which really hurt me.
And Chris tried to convince me the very first day that I met him, he tried to convince me, because he's the assistant coach on the women's team here, but I was not persuaded. That being said, I did my first 3 semesters at Wesleyan. I blew up my knee playing soccer, which ended up spurring me to take a little bit of time off. So in that time off, I worked, I traveled, spent a decent amount of time in South America and Central America traveling. Did a lot of volunteer work with various veterans groups, Word Project, Team Rubicon, Right to Recovery. And in my head, I figured I was going to come back to school. I really enjoyed my experience at Wesleyan, but I thought, academics were out of the cards for me. Doing work with veterans ended up inspiring me to go back to school. And I did a semester at a huge state university, a SUNY school, and I realized that I take my Wesleyan, my Wesleyan experience for granted, and that not every school is as amazing as Wesleyan. So that being said, I maintained contact with my class dean the entire time I was away from school, which ended up being around 2.5 years. And they were happy to have me back, and I came back last spring. So I ended up in long story short, I graduated early, 2 years late though. So I graduated with 2 semesters, and I couldn't be, happier with having come back to Wesleyan. I loved it so much I had to come back a second time. Wesleyan's a very special place. Neuroscience and Science and Society, I did that because I wanted to take advantage of the liberal arts education. Also as an undergrad, if you're interested in the sciences or even government, there's opportunity to do research as an undergrad, which I was also able to take advantage of, which you're not going to get at a huge, state school. So it's a special place. Like I said, I took it for granted, and I loved it so much I had to come back twice. But very happy with my decision, and can't wait to walk across that field in about 3 weeks now. So.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we all good?
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much for being willing to participate.
Okay. See ya.
So long, we'll see you in the fall.
Okay. Thank you.
I think I just want